much for joining. This is a really fantastic group. Lovely to see you all. Thanks again for joining. My name is Ariel Molino. I'm the chief convener with Pollinate Impact. I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya. And today we are having one of our no-nonsense peer advice sessions. And today's topic is actually incubating nonprofits. So we have a fantastic set of folks who are going to share their experiences. This topic is really interesting to us because the sort of traditional incubator model is to incubate for-profit enterprises that are going to massively scale and raise tons of investment. But in the real world of sustainable development, there's a lot of organizations that don't care how the organizations that they're supporting are structured and how the sort of, they're incorporated, whether they're nonprofit or for-profit or hybrid. And so we really wanted to see what some of the differences and nuances are between incubating nonprofits and for-profits and other structures. So really delighted to have all of you here today. If you've joined some of our sessions before, we always start with a couple check-in questions. So we'll get started with the check-in just before we jump into the conversation. So we will do our check-in questions on Menti. So I'll just put there we go. So I just put the Menti link in the chat. And yeah, so feel free to just join the Menti poll on that link. You can also go to menti.com and use the code that you can see as Shami is sharing her screen. So we want to know, for you all in the room, what types of social enterprises do you support? And our wonderful speakers can also, you're welcome to reply here. So we really want to know with the folks in the room and just get a read. Are you currently focused on supporting for-profit social enterprises, nonprofits, hybrids, or neither? I'd be curious. Maybe you can put in the chat kind of what neither would be. So go ahead and join and fill out the poll. For those of you who are just joining, I'm going to copy the link again in the chat for our Menti poll. Okay, great. I can see Pradnya is putting in the chat both for-profits and NGOs. If you guys are having a problem accessing the Menti poll, let me know for some reason. Because I'm not seeing any responses come in just yet. But I'll give you guys a few more seconds. We have a few more checking questions to go. So Shami, are you able to see it on your side? Oh, there we go. Okay, great. Oh, wow. Okay, awesome. So we actually have a lot of folks in the room who are supporting nonprofit social enterprises. So that's really fascinating. This is a really, really good spread. Obviously, we probably have some bias since given the topic, but that's really fantastic. So Shami, we can go on to the next question, and just let us know where you're joining from. Where in the world are you? I think I saw some folks that we recognize. India, Cambodia, Ghana. Awesome. Okay, a good number of folks from India. Feel like I saw Svetlana. I thought I saw you from Kenya. Okay, there's Kenya, Portugal. Awesome. This is fabulous. So really loving this diversity. And Vietnam, I can see. Wonderful. So I think our panelists are mostly from India, but I think they have a lot of learnings that can be transferred across borders. So let us know what type of organization you are. I'm guessing we have mostly hubs here. I'm going to just put the Menti link back in the chat for anyone who has just joined, so you can join our Menti poll. Okay, so mostly incubators. That's pretty much what we expected. Okay, a couple of donors. Great to hear some entrepreneurs as well and some consultants. Fantastic. All right, lovely. And I think this is our last check-in question. Just let us know, what are some of the biggest challenges you experience when you're supporting specifically nonprofit social enterprises? So not, if we rule out the for-profits or the hybrids, what are some of the biggest challenges that you're experiencing? I think that'll really help us help our peers here in their sharing their experiences. So fantastic. Donors, fundraising, specifically local donors, access to capital and talent. Yeah, money, talent is always a finance again, funding. Okay, so funding, capacity for funding, grants, dependency, fundraising again, talent again. Okay, and maybe some definition in terms of what they're working on. And focus. Okay, so focus seems to be coming up. Fantastic. So I think this really sets up our speakers fantastically to really help get a read of who's in the room and what are some of the things that that we're all experiencing. And I hope everyone in the room is recognizing a lot of the common challenges that keep coming up. So thank you so much for sharing that and being so open. We're going to dive in. So just to let you all know what to expect, we have 4 organizations who are with us today who are going to share their experiences. Each of them are going to have about 7 to 8 minutes each to share some of their work and give some of the practical advice from their perspective in incubating nonprofits. And then we'll open it up to you all to ask questions. So as we go, please feel free to put your questions in the chat, and we'll come to those towards the end. And before we dig in, I'll ask each of our panelists to just give a quick introduction to themselves. I don't even want to say panelists, I really want to say peers, because this is your space as incubators and accelerators. So maybe Shubha, we'll start with you, and then Dr. Akhil, and then Vijaya and Nachiket, because that's the order I'm seeing you on our screen. So go for it.
Hi, I'm Subhashri Datta. I head social entrepreneurship at the Nudge Institute, which is an 8-year-old nonprofit based out of India. I have a 30-year career in finance, and I've lived in Vietnam and Indonesia, Hong Kong, among other places, so may resonate with some of our participants. 2 years into the social sector, we run an only not-for-profit incubator and accelerator, have supported 120 enterprises, and made about 5.5 million in grants over these past years.
Thanks, Shiva. My name is Dr. Akhil Shani. I've been in the education space for the last, probably all my life. My family's been in education. We run colleges and other things. But my group recently acquired an incubator called Unltd last year, which is actually one of the oldest incubators for social entrepreneurs. It started 15 years ago. And so far, we've supported around 350 social entrepreneurs. So in a way, I'm actually going through the process of taking an existing incubator with a very good brand name in India and finding ways to enhance what we do and try to apply new initiatives to make us do a lot more than what we do. And I'm going to share obviously some of that as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Akhil. Hi, everyone. My name is Vijaya Balaji, based out of Mumbai, India, and I represent Toolbox India and Social Lens. Both of these 2 organizations work in the areas of strengthening organization capacities of nonprofits. We see ourselves as an incubator of skills, provision of skills for nonprofits. Toolbox is 13 years old, Social Lens is 8 years old, and a combined engagement with over 1,000 nonprofits. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Vijaya. Hi, everybody. I'm Nachiket. People around the world call me Nachi. It's easier and faster. I represent an organization called NSRCEL, which is an incubator in a leading business school in India called Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. I am Bangalore, and we've been in the social entrepreneurship space for the last 5 years. As a business incubator, we've been around from 1999. And we just finished celebrating incubating 100 ventures, and we'll cover more in depth when we get a chance to get that. So thank you for having me.
Oops. Looks like Ariel dropped off. All right. So I think, based on how we've got this going, I think I'll invite Vijaya to start us off and give us a little bit of introduction and give us your perspectives on, how what you've learned and how you've incubated nonprofits.
Thank you, Shami. Hello, everyone. It's lovely to be here. I think if I just were to take a step back 13 years ago when we went to sort of set up the Toolbox India Foundation's operations, I think the problem that we were looking to solve was very simple. Our hypothesis was if we could support nonprofit organizations which faced a huge gap in the access to intellectual capital, and if we could do it by leveraging the talent which was there in the for-profit world, we could enable nonprofit organizations to really look at how they could, direct their efforts in amplifying impact. That was the very simple hypothesis which we started with. So we knew traditionally that we would never be a funder of financial capital. What we would do is, however, we would support organizations with access to skills, which was much needed. So this is where we started. If I look at what we went on to do in 13 years and over a plethora, a large number of organizations we've worked with, what are the sort of challenges and gaps that we've seen nonprofits historically that they've been faced with and they're trying to solve? Someone mentioned in the polls, till date, access to capital funding is a major sort of ask, a need, and a challenge that nonprofits face. Access to the right kind of, while has shown a lot of encouraging movement in the last few years, yet it is still not fully accessible to all nonprofits to be able to afford that kind of capital and to be able to pay the kind of remunerations that are benchmarked to the best practices in industry. I could go on to add on more to the list, but essentially these still continue to be the problems to try and resolve. So it's almost like a vicious circle. If I have better talent pool, I'll have better outcomes, and then I'll be able to access more capital. But the truth of the matter also is that if you look at the landscape of India, the ecosystem is flooded with nonprofits, and there's a huge sort of diversity in not just theme, but in size, geography, within the cause, and so on. So what is it that we tried to do and what is it that we've learned? I think our guiding principles, one, have been really to take the best of what the corporate and the for-profits world have to offer, contextualize it, right? And really look at how we could offer pertinent support to nonprofits. So whether it was in strengthening human resources systems, whether it was improved financial planning, including looking at having some sort of a investment mindset in terms of building corpuses, building up reserves, as they're typically called in the for-profit world, better talent spotting, and also moving towards more of representation of your work in a language that was understood by all types of donors. 13 years ago, when we started, the sector is filled with people who are driven with very high degrees of commitment and passion. And I'm sure we'll hear all that from the rest of the eminent peers who are going to be speaking. But passion and commitment, while everybody understands and appreciates, there is a need to also be able to present your work in a manner that is universally understood, which meant we needed to nudge mindsets and behaviors into being a bit more data-driven, to adopt, to embrace a data culture. Now, that's not easy to do. One is we always think that the resistance is because people are inherently resistant to change. I slightly differ here because I think it also comes because sometimes they just don't know fully the way to do it. And I think our endeavor has really been to see how we could provide support, how we could sort of enable nonprofit organizations to be better equipped, uh, enable them and support them in the adoption and execution of some of these so that they are able to move forward. So for the last 13 years, we have championed this and worked with nonprofits who do not have the access to the kind of capital that can also support organization development. I think one of the most encouraging things is that today funders recognize that they need to have specialized capital available for nonprofits to leverage those grants and use it. So whether it's a technology grant, whether it's for leadership development, more and more of that coming up. And so what have been really some of our learnings in all of this? Institutionalization of the learnings and practical adoption of these is essential. Otherwise, the story is just going to be in terms of, yes, they provided direction for us, we're strengthened. And also the reason why I think institutionalization of these learnings in every organization is important, it becomes a sustainable transfer of knowledge and application. So I think for us, the philosophy is very simple. Across Social Lens and Toolbox, we continue to look at organizations who can actually benefit through enhancing their organization development. You bring in more efficiency into your operations. You're able to redirect the non-value added time that you put into non-value added work, and really direct it, focusing on what each organization believes is essential for them to do when it comes to sort of driving their program outcomes. And, honestly, I think what we've tried to do is help them be able to communicate in a succinct way. One of the things that I was told, and my boss is a private equity, very high up in the private equity world. He said, Vijaya, if you do not tell me what you need to tell me in 45 seconds, you've lost me. I can do it in 2 minutes now, so which I think is an improvement. But I think one of the things is nonprofits, one of the things we work very closely is to help them present what the problem they're trying to solve, how they're doing it, and what they have seen as emerging from it. Because just talking about the need does not allow them to represent what they're doing. So we feel that narrative building, communication is one of the very core areas. Talent, how do you spot talent and retain talent? How do we look to ensure that people who join our organizations supporting the missions of these organizations continue to stay invested, bringing in productivity with their motivation? I think what I'm speaking about is not very unlike or new. These are persistent challenges. These are persistent things that nonprofits are working through. I think, and we've seen over the years, we've seen some fantastic stories emerge, stories of change, which really validate some of our work. Right next door to our office, we work with, there's this another organization where we constantly hear sounds of children, screaming. We knew very early on that was a center for children with special needs. Very, very driven, trying to do good work. COVID really set things back for them. And that's when she came casually to our office and I were working alone. And she said, so what is it that you do exactly? And we got talking and she sort of enrolled in our program. Ashish Foundation today has gone on to ramp up their funding with the work that they work with us. Their fundraising is improved, which has allowed them to hire more special, see the center thriving with children coming in. A small small, significant, very tangible sort of change that we've seen. And I'd like to therefore leave you with this. We're glad we hear a lot of screaming coming from the next door, because we know then that that center is filled with children, which Ashish Foundation is able to support. Thank you. I'll stop here.
Great. All right, great. So I think I'm next after Vijaya. Thanks a lot, Vijaya, for setting up the stage. I think there are 2 points that came across from a speech about the idea of fundraise, need for funds, and of course, the use of data. So as I mentioned earlier, I come from the for-profit background and I've been a serial entrepreneur. And as you know, and we actually tell our own social entrepreneurs that the thing is that, look, the first thing you need to keep in mind is that never run out of money. The minute you run out of money, you have no business, right? So we said that, okay, when we look at ourselves as Unltd India, as an incubator, we say, how do we make sure that we ourselves don't run out of money? The thing is that as incubators, you're constantly depending on funding from grant makers and things like that. And we said that, how do we ensure that there is grant money coming to us to enable us to continue our work? So we said, let's understand one thing. And what I'm going to say is slightly controversial. At Unltd, our client is not the social entrepreneur. In Unltd, our client is a grant maker. Unltd is a solution provider that enables grant makers to better utilize the impact of their funds through the method of enabling social entrepreneurs to execute projects. That's it. So we said that, look, if we understand what the pain point of the grant maker is, and we'll be able to service the grant maker's needs, and by default, we will get more money, and that'll help us enhance what we do. So how did that change our method of operation? So as I mentioned, Unltd itself has been there for the last 15 years. It's supported around 350 social entrepreneurs so far. Most of our cohorts have been incubated, sometimes a combination of for-profit, not-for-profit in the same cohort. We have a very high-touch model where each entrepreneur has a coach assigned to them, and it's a 9-month program, and we have a very intense program, and I'm happy to share that in Q&A. But what we said is that let's first understand incubator as Unltd. What makes us so special in the market? Why should anyone give their money to us versus any of the other players in the market? So we said, let's do some analysis. So we analyzed the 350 social entrepreneurs that we had supported earlier, and we discovered that 80% of them are in business more than 5 years after leaving us, right? That means that it's a very high success rate, because on an average, an incubator would have maybe a 20% success rate. We have an 80% success rate. The second thing is, and very important, is that every rupee or every dollar that's been put into our social entrepreneurs, we discovered that they had raised 52 times either grant money, equity, or revenue, but they had grown 52 times. So that means there's a 52x return on every dollar that's been put in. The third thing is that we realize is that there's some of the very big names in the market in India, which actually got their start from us. We were very often, 63% of the time, we were the first funder or first supporter of these very big names. So we said, good, we got great data point. We showed an 80% success rate, 52x return, and some big brand name to show. Then we said, good, so now we know that we've got good metrics to show to the funders. But the second insight, we said that most funders, a lot of funders actually, is that they don't necessarily want to fund incubation just by itself, right? In fact, in India, the law is that, it's not that easy to fund an incubator unless you're registered with the Department of DSC or Atal or things like that. But however, they say, look, we don't necessarily want to give money to a middle class and low middle class entrepreneur to do some social work. We want to use a social entrepreneur to actually enhance what we do. So we said that, look, instead of us incubating social entrepreneurs in general, we will do thematic cohorts. That means that we said that, okay, look, like, for example, last year we did a cohort of only climate social entrepreneurs. So the pitch we gave to climate funders is that, look, if you put, let's say, $1 in a climate project, you'll get $1 worth of impact. However, if you put $1 in incubating a climate social entrepreneur, you have a chance of increasing impact by 52 times, because that's the average return. So what we said is that by incubating a climate social entrepreneur, you can enhance your impact in this way. The same thing we use for a cohort of women social entrepreneurs. And now we have a cohort of education NGOs. The point being is that if you understand that most grant funders want to fund a cause, either education or women social entrepreneurs or climate or health, whatever. If you are able to say that by incubating social entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs in that space, you are able to enhance what the grant funder does, suddenly you become the grant funder's best friend. And that is a good way to show. The second thing is that besides showing the metrics, we also have to show efficiency in operations. But as you know, most grant funders say, hey, I'm giving you $100, don't spend $50 on your admin. We want to hear $100 going to you. You want to make sure you don't spend more than 10, 15, 20% max on admin. So which obviously is difficult because you actually have to hire talent. You have to make sure your operations are running. You have to spend money on even compliance, but you have to put majority of the money into projects. So what did we do? We said, okay, let's find ways to use technology to enhance what we do. So for example, a lot of the stuff that actually was done by requiring human capital, we started automating with technology. And again, that we use partners to do that for us. In fact, there are a lot of organizations that are happy to develop technology for you pro bono. And it's just a matter of finding those people. We had partners to even do pro bono research for us to make sure that we can actually come up with white papers that enhance our PR in the market. And it didn't cost us anything except we had to sort of give them the right directions. The third thing, we said, okay, look, that is there in terms of scaling up the work that we do, using technology to enhance our operations and cut down our costs. In fact, our costs have actually come down by almost, I think, 25, 30% over the last year or so because we've started using partnerships and using technology to reduce our support costs for the entrepreneur. That means that with the same money that I was getting from a grant funder last year, I can support more entrepreneurs this year with the same amount of money because of these efficiencies. The third thing is that we said that if I want to increase the quality of entrepreneurs coming to us, we have to enable them to get follow-on funding after leaving us. The thing is that we ourselves as an incubator, we cannot fund these entrepreneurs because of various laws in India, which I don't want to get into. However, what we did is that we partnered with angel networks. We partnered with the networks of philanthropists, and we said that if I've got, let's say, a cohort of climate social entrepreneurs, I will present them to a bunch of climate angel funders, and they are more likely to get funding. Or if I've got a bunch of education NGOs, I'll bring them in front of philanthropists who are interested in supporting education from the grant making side. The point is that making sure that when you graduate from the incubation process of Unlimited, there is a funding network that you're able to access through Unlimited that gets attractive to the social entrepreneurs that we have, and then that tends to get a lot more people applying to us. Another thing that we started this year is that we're now putting what's called the Unlimited certified stamp of approval. That means that everybody who goes to our incubation cohort, only certain people get that Unlimited certification. Some people drop out, some people don't qualify. What happens from the viewpoint of the funder is that the funder said, look, if somebody is graduating from Unlimited and there is an Unlimited certified stamp on it, therefore I know it's a mark of quality, therefore they're more likely to fund it. It's like saying that, okay, if I'm, let's say, a Ashoka fellow, or if I'm, let's say, an Aspen fellow or Andy, we want to make Unlimited a mark of quality to say that only quality goes to, and if you've gone through this, you got our stamp, it shows quality to the funder. So again, I think I've just got, I think around 10, 15 seconds left. So I'm happy to answer more questions, but I think bottom line, three things to keep in mind. One is understand that your customer is the grant funder. Find ways to make them more effective in deploying their capital. Secondly, find partnerships, find people who are providing pro bono services, organizations that will help you enhance what you do without much cost. And the third thing is that make sure that you build networks that allow the people that you are incubating to get access to follow-on funding. I mean, that's really it. So yeah, I'll keep quiet now and I'll put you on to, I think Shubhashri or Nachiketan, who's next?
I think, yeah. Yes, Nachiketan, I think, is up next. Thank you so much, Dr. Akhil. Apologies, all of you. I lost my power. So Nachiketan, over to you.
Great. So thank you, Dr. Ashish, for setting that context. I'll actually pick it from there and actually go, explain what we do. So yes, these conversations with funders are fairly challenging because either by law or by history, they come and say, 80% is your grant expense and 20% is your operational expenses. So what, in that sense, it sets you for, I would say, openness for collaboration. And that's been the theme of whatever we do at NSRCEL. So when I joined around 2.5 years ago, social entrepreneurship here at NSRCEL has been there from 2017, and they had sort of done only nonprofit incubation. But I sort of challenged the status quo and said, let's bring in for-profits as well. But we wanted to do it without killing the legacy of the first 3-4 cohorts, right? One of the things we have noticed, and I'm sure a lot of you all notice with your entrepreneurs as well, is when you blend in both nonprofits and for-profits together. Of course, we were hesitant to do it to actually run common cohorts, right? So right now, for instance, I'm supposed to incubate 120 startups in the space to have a technology as an enabler or have a digitally inclusive business model. It doesn't matter whether nonprofit or not. And we're beginning to combine these cohorts. And initially, we thought it's going to be very challenging, but then essentially you realize that 70 to 80% of what one delivers in terms of upskilling for an entrepreneur in the impact space, be it a for-profit or non-profit, is going to be the same. And where it is different, and one or two of the weak points that we have noticed that we specifically collaborate on is, one is go to market, right? Go to market, and of course, fundraising, since everyone spoke about it, I'm not going to speak about it. But go to market, branding, communications, every social entrepreneur, especially in the nonprofit space, is very, very powerful in their community, in their passion, in what they know in their subject, right? But in actually communicating to a funder or to a potential collaborator as to what you do in 7 or 8 minutes, there's been a weak point. So one thing that we realized is an advantage we have at NSRCEL, which is, as I said, we run 13 other program tracks. And those 12 other program tracks outside of social entrepreneurship are very much commercial, in the sense where there is a e-commerce program, there's a program for fintech, there's a program for consumer brands, where we feel things like branding, communication, go-to-market sort of plays a very, very critical role and has, I would say, in general, in history, a better output. We have been able to cross leverage and send a few of our entrepreneurs to programs from our peer teams. So, for instance, we brought in somebody called Ajay Matthew from Hyderabad. He is a digital marketer. He consults for a lot of brands, and he is a partner for Stanford Seed, where an average revenue of a company coming in and attending his program there is around 3 crores. I think in dollars, it's more than $300,000 in annual. So what we have noticed here is, if you expose a nonprofit entrepreneur to that sort of free market thinking, be it in go-to-market, be it in the technology or product development, the transformation we have seen them do by the end of the program is phenomenal. In fact, we had an entire cohort of 9 nonprofits working in partnership with us and in Capgemini, which is one of our program partners in the technology space. 3 out of these nonprofits ended up setting parallel for-profit entities. In the span of 9 months, they were able to even pivot their target audience. And also because, these things happen because their sales and go-to-market sessions were taken by someone who is a sales head of fintech unicorn, right? One, this is exposing them to a space where these functions and these skills are very, very important and non-negotiable, right? And if you're raising money to be a unicorn, or if you're raising money to build a huge empire, there is no looking back in terms of what you can communicate. And we've seen that transformation. And out of these 3 who set up parallel for-profits, they've changed their target audiences. 2 more are coming back to us after 2 years saying, hey, listen, I'm setting my for-profit entity. Can I get incubated again? So we saw this whole impact of cross-leveraging between other incubation programs, where a lot of the peer entrepreneurs may not be impact first. Of course, we have to be a bit careful where we have to give these disclaimers to our entrepreneurs that, listen, your impact is not going to be diluted. Your probably philosophy is not going to be diluted, but these are the skills we feel are very, very no-brainers for this sector, and this is something you can pick up. I think this is probably one of the fundamental differentiator also for us, where I've worked in other social enterprise incubators. The difference I would say here is us actually having access to entrepreneurs and corporates who are actually doing a lot more other things than just social impact. Of course, what's needed for social impact will anyway come in. And as Dr. Ashish put in, part of the challenge for nonprofits after they leave us is, funding, and that's something, that's a work in progress for all of us, where, we sort of try and diversify the kind of funding that people get. So we are not only, let's say, exposing them to corporates, but getting in foundations, philanthropists, accelerators globally, family offices, a lot of these diverse sources, or even to experiment with debt, like MSDF did with a few nonprofits in the past. So those are models we're trying to experiment now, and I think by the time we hit 200 and 300 ventures, it's something we'll probably have more sample size. But I'll just end with this. There are a lot of grassroots nonprofits in India. What has happened in the last 10 years is with the CSR law and with the corporate social responsibility law, they've sort of been, I would say, left behind. But in general, we are advocating, financial sustainability or revenue models to be an important component of what they're thinking, so that they're not completely grant dependent. I'll stop here. I think over to Subhashit.
Hey, so I was actually going to take the topic of the question of whether non-profit, for-profit, hybrid models. So one of the things I think we need to start with is what is the mission and of the not-for-profit or the organization that is doing it. And I will pepper this with examples. iSaksham, one of our enterprises, is working in Bihar to enable livelihoods for 18 to 24-year-old women and enabling them to get jobs in the future. This model can never be financially sustainable, and so they are at one end of the spectrum, working with the poorest of the poor, creating impact that can only be grant enabled. We have another organization called Karya, which actually made the Time magazine cover, which has a hybrid structure. But in their for-profit entity, they are basically getting work, AI work. So in rural India, workers are recording Indian languages to enable AI in Indic languages. And Karya is paying $4 to $5 per hour to these workers, because the worker is at the center of what they want to do, that rural India should become more prosperous. You could see a mission drift if there are the capital that comes in which wants to maximize profit and says that why not pay 50 cents to $1 per hour, which is the rate, and therefore Karya, as it grows, has to ensure that the for-profit capital that it brings or seeking is long-term patient capital willing to live in with single-digit returns or longer-term horizons, not valuation exits, because they're aligned with the vision of Karya of giving more money to rural India. So I think what the mission is important. We'll give another example. There's an organization called Gramhal. It has an app called Bol Bhav, which is giving real-time data to farmers in India so that they know the mandi or the market prices and they can take more out of the value chain. Can Gramhal become a for-profit model or a sustainable model? It can. So, but where we see Karikar Clinic, which is working with rural artisans, enabling them. But if they do not give market linkages, then there is no point having skilled these workers if they can't get market linkages. So there's a for-profit entity that has a market linkage. But one thing, as we look at, so sustainability may come in different avatars. So you need a non-profit which is really doing, bringing that bottom of the pyramid out of poverty, doing what the non-profit or the impact-focused organization is seeking as its mission. But at the same time, there may be structures which you need for-profit for sustainability. So, but I would say that we need, for that for-profit structure, either to ensure no mission drift, you need aligned capital. So that, but one strong note of caution while we look at for-profits with hybrid structures is that you need to get your boards right. The boards cannot be the same, and the non-profit cannot be subsidizing the for-profit, or a place for parking the losses. So I think very much what is your mission and purpose leads into what is your funding model, because what is the appropriate capital for what that you're seeking to achieve, and therefore the for-profit that you may develop may be more return seeking or more impact seeking, depending on where you land, or where is that happy mix, right? There is no right point to be on this. So that comes to scalability and sustainability. So who is the doer and payer of scale of your impact? And in many places where we see, where really the poorest of the poor, the government is the doer and payer at scale. So we see many of our nonprofits working as project management units in the government, unlocking millions of dollars of capital in schemes which the government is putting through, or in schools, etc. But there may be other structures where, example in carbon credits or agroforestry, where a for-profit model may be, you may be able to find payers at scale, and therefore the doer of scale becomes the impact organization, but the payers of scale become the markets. And I just want to caution that you just, even before what is your mission, you need to get your structure right, because trust once broken cannot be regained, and just important to know what structure you're adopting and who sits where and how cash flow flows to the entities. My second point was actually what next. So in India, nonprofits cannot access CSR or corporate social responsibility capital for 3 years. So incubators such as us play a very key role in giving that early stage capital, as well as the support that we provide. So we do incubation for 9 months. Our selectivity rate is about 2%. And basically we run 3 boot camps. We have portfolio managers that are working weekly with these organizations. We have external mentors that work once in a couple of weeks with these organizations. And we are building pathways to further capital. We see these organizations go to other incubators, go into the CSR buckets, but we also see them making pathways into big bang philanthropy. So big bang philanthropy is about 12 organizations which fund about $60 million annually to various nonprofits. So we have several of our alumni that have got grants from Mulago, DRK. Those are the first gateway into Big Bang. We also, London X, LSE has a 100X impact accelerator. Echoing Green is another one. So we actively work on providing pathways to capital for our not-for-profits in the thing. My last point would be on learnings. So one thing is that we invest a lot in our outreach and selection process. So kind of making sure we are taking in entrepreneurs that have a DNA of speed, scale, and innovation, as we say, and just that have an ambition to solve things at scale. We are very obsessed with creating impact at scale, and therefore in our incubator, we are looking for entrepreneurs who have that ambition, and in our accelerator, we are looking to support scale journeys of successful pilots. The second, to Vijaya's point, the standardization of experience or cross learnings or creating playbooks, etc., is what we have also invested a lot in. We have also started an alumni network, because we think that there is a lot for peer-to-peer learning and collaboration. And we think that more important than connecting our entrepreneurs to funders is to build a fundraising muscle, the pitch making ability, able to say, as Vijay said, in 1 minute, your 1 minute elevator pitch, etc. And I think we are extremely lucky in the body of external mentors that we have, which is a highlight of our program, because they are really able to provide strategic support to the organizations. Thank you. Is there anything that I needed to talk about?
No, I think that's perfect, Shubhashri.
Yeah.
Thank you so. And as I'm hearing all of you speak, there are so many consistencies between kind of for-profit entrepreneurs and the nonprofit entrepreneurs. When we're talking about, Shubhashri, you're talking about mission-aligned capital, and I think Vijaya was talking about talent, and so do you find there are more similarities between the nonprofits and the for-profits that you're supporting? Or do you see, like, where's the nuance come in terms of those distinctions? Because from the sounds of it, it sounds very consistent in terms of the challenges and sort of the opportunities that are there. It's just where's the nuance for specifically for supporting nonprofits, do you think? And I would ask that to any of you.
So what we've done
legal
is
and
that,
compliances. Go ahead, Ashish.
Sorry, Akhil. So what we've
Akhil,
done
sorry.
basically is that we've actually, as I said, specialized our cohorts into for-profit cohorts and not-for-profit cohorts, right? Because what we realize is that there are some differences, even though both of them require coaching on how to scale their business, how to refine their product or service to the end customer, the end beneficiary. In the case of NGOs, we actually have to give them a lot more support on compliance in terms of making sure that they comply with the rules, especially for nonprofits. We do a compliance audit for these entrepreneurs, so that's a major thing for not-for-profits. And of course, because they are mainly supported they're looking for grants, we need to help them to understand the B2B model of how to actually appeal to grant funders. The for-profit guys, we are helping them to find ways to scale up their business and how to enhance their product or service to get money from the B2C client as such, because they're not necessarily raising grant money, they're raising money from maybe independent customers or something like that. So there are minor changes, even though I would say 80% is common. What's different for NGOs would be the compliance aspect. What's different for, let's say, the for-profit guys, maybe more B2C focus and building more revenue from that thing. But just before I end, what we also are telling some of our non-profit NGOs is saying, look, the thing is that you can't just keep on depending on grant funding forever. So you need to find models which make you sustainable. That means that maybe setting up a for-profit that generates income and is able to donate the profits of that into the not-for-profit. So that is there, but that's what our current strategy is.
Great, thank you. Nachiket, I think you wanted to add.
Yeah, I think the nuance is a lot of our incubators come to us at a very, very early stage. One of the caveats here is, and probably also a common trend that we noticed, a lot of, let's say if you call them change makers, are not aware of let's say the newer way of doing things, maybe when last 10 years when impact investment has picked up, right? There is inspiration, there is motivation. And in order to do that change, people set up nonprofits because that's how it has been so for years. And that's a personal choice. And that's how you want to grow the organization, so be it. But one of the things that we hence started doing, and it's a learning after mistakes, is to have this whole legal module at the outset itself. We have a very popular module called 101 of nonprofits and for-profits on the legal and compliance front. It goes on for like 2 or 3 weeks, and that exposes people to the different types of structures a nonprofit can have and a for-profit can have, and how that choice is actually going to enable their future journeys. This is, I would say, a lot of them don't even have certifications that are necessary to accept grants beyond the initial incubating grants. And those are the things that are outcomes of such workshops, which is better done earlier, sooner rather than later into the incubation program.
No, fantastic, fantastic. And I think we probably have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. I can see Omkar has put a question in. Hi, Omkar. And he's asking for advice on sustainability for a nonprofit incubator who's in a remote location. So basically an incubator itself that's at an early stage. So I think, if I can add on that, many incubators themselves are established as nonprofits, right? So what what advice or recommendations do you have to those incubators in the room who are established as nonprofits, and what can we ourselves apply from your experience in this?
Can I go?
Yes, yes, please.
Right. So, Omkar, this just takes me back to the early days at Toolbox, right? One of the things, if you are supporting a nonprofit, I think it's very important to have a very compelling sort of outcomes and impact of the work that we're doing. I can tell you that if you're supporting a nonprofit where you're looking at, apart from providing capital, you're also looking at supporting them in the org development and so on. Org development, capacity building today requires defined outcomes, just like any other program. So I think that was the learning that came for us at Toolbox very early. Also, I think both Akhil and Subhashri did mention about the kind of nonprofits that you're going to work with. I think one of our decisions is, while there are so many that we want to really support, we also have to identify to work with organizations who walk with us in this incubation journey, that we are also able to show our success is very fundamentally pegged to their success as how they go. So I think you need to look at your selection of nonprofits, how you structure your incubation support, and how you're actually defining the impact for it. Anybody else who would like to?
Actually, we are only working with nonprofits. So the for-profits that kind of emerge in hybrid structures, more often than not, the for-profit follows the nonprofit, and it's kind of a sustainability mechanism. So we still are kind of advising the nonprofit with the kind of that lens. In terms of building your own incubation center, I would suggest that look for government grants or government support. In India, there are several schemes. I'm not sure about Africa, but there is, kind of in developing economies, there's a strong thrust from governments to support these kind of schemes. So how can you get that? I would also encourage you to look at how can you leverage on people on a pro bono basis to build capacity, as all of us are doing in our networks. And, now we have Zoom calls and other things, so they don't need to come to your remote place of incubation. But you need to scale your program quickly and make it more in-depth. Just leaning in on other people, other networks, consultings might take you, there faster than trying to reinvent the wheel. There are many toolkits around and many things which we would all be happy to share in that journey.
So just adding to Shubha's and Vijaya's point. So the thing is that you're on a remote location. So actually that could be a good thing. In fact, there is a friend of mine who runs an incubator in the Northeast, right? And he said, okay, look, I'm actually creating an incubator to support entrepreneurs who are coming from the Seven Sisters, Meghalaya, Assam, and things like that. And he said the thing that means I'm actually going to say that I'm going to make it as a positioning, because there are a lot of incubators in India. However, I'm the only one who is helping to develop the regions of the Seven Sisters, Assam, Meghalaya, and all. And therefore, the people who fund us want to help to develop that region. So whatever region you are in, you may want to look at the fact that saying that, okay, look, I'm in this area. I'm actually developing, let's say, the local micro entrepreneurs in this area. That's one thing. Or I'm trying to develop, let's say, the type of people who, the region itself. So maybe you can say that I'm doing a cluster development. I'm saying I'm going to be supporting an education entrepreneur, healthcare entrepreneur, let's say a women agenda entrepreneur. The idea being that together it develops the overall region itself. The second thing is that I realized that a lot of funders, especially individual trusts, there are a lot of people who may have made it big and actually want to give back to that region. So for example, so I'm in the Rotary Club. In fact, there's a very large donor who says, I want to help my region, which is in Raipur, right? For example, he said, I'm going to put all my money in Raipur, and any project which is in Raipur, I will do that. I won't put my money anywhere else. So make a good thing that you are from that region and say, look, I can do stuff in this region that nobody else can do. And you find people who are interested in supporting that region. And let me help you.
Fantastic, Dr. Akhil. Thank you so much. And we are pretty much at time. I think we probably needed more time for this conversation. But thank you all so much for sharing your insights, for sharing your contributions. This is actually a really, really well attended session. So I'm really happy to see the interest in looking at multiple different types of structures to support entrepreneurs and to support sustainable development. If you're interested to learn more about Pollinate Impact, and we host these sessions regularly, like all the time, not specifically on incubating incubators, but we have a couple of in-person workshops coming up in the next couple of weeks. Next week in Nairobi, the following week will be in Abidjan in Cote d'Ivoire. So please, feel free to spread the word. Those workshops are for incubators only. We also have an investment readiness tool library coming up in March. So that's also from existing organizations that are sharing the tools and resources they have if some of you are looking at investment readiness for your entrepreneurs. And then we have a roundtable also coming up in March, specifically on talent. So Vijaya, that might be a keen interest to you, but I know that I saw from the check-in question that talent is a big issue for a lot of our organizations. And this is specifically looking at talent for impact incubators and accelerators. So, and I think Shami is probably putting in some links to the chat. So yeah, please follow us on social media. We also have our calendar online on the website. Yeah, we really thank you so much, Nachiket, Vijaya, Dr. Akhil, Shubha. We hope to engage with you further, and good to see some familiar faces. Wang, Omkar, Svetlana, thank you guys for joining. And let's continue the conversation. So we'd love to hear your feedback. Let us know if this was helpful. And we hope to see many of you join us again for more deeper conversations on effective strategies for kind of building the incubation industry across the Global South. So thank you all once again, and have a fantastic rest of your afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having
Bye.
us.
Have a good
Bye.
one. Thank you guys so much.